This is the Six Figure Creative Podcast, episode 398.
Welcome to the Six Figure Creative Podcast, where our mission is to help you turn your creative passions into a stable, reliable income. If you're in audio, video, design, photography, or really any other creative field, and you just want to learn from other successful creatives, you're in the right place.
There's generally two types of freelancers that I've met in the wild. There are first those who have just never tried paid ads before. That's getting to be a smaller and smaller group these days, but generally they never tried because they're intimidated by it, they're overwhelmed by it, or they just don't think it'll work for them. The second group, which is getting to be an increasingly larger group, are those who have tried, but they just couldn't make it work for them for whatever reason. So in this episode, I'm breaking down the 7 most common reasons why paid ads flop for creative freelancers, especially when you first try these out for yourself, and what you need to fix before you ever spend another dollar. So if you ever felt like you've wasted money on ads, this one's gonna show you why they didn't work and how to make them work next time. And if you've never run paid ads before, this is still worth listening to or watching. If you're on Spotify, we actually have Spotify video now, so shout out to my Spotify video peeps. This is still worth listening to or watching because it can save you from wasting a ton of money in the future if you ever do try paid ads. When I first started doing paid ads, I wasted like $10,000 on paid ads before it ever worked out for me. But since then, I have spent over $1 million on ads very profitably, to the point where I did the math. And if you look at like the S&P 500, if you look up average returns, you'll see anywhere from like 8 to 12%, depending on what people factor into returns. And you'll see some of the best people in the world can get like 15, 18, up to 20% a year returns. Paid ads is more like getting 500% a year or 600% a year or 1,000% a year on the money you put into it. And I've also coached freelancers through this, being able to land 5-figure clients from paid ads and even growing past 6 figures with paid ads being the core of their client acquisition methods. And while I'm going to go through all 7 things, if you stick around to the end, I'll give you a way that you can actually chat directly with me about paid ads for free. And you can ask me whatever you want. We can dissect why your ads aren't working or ways that we can improve the numbers if they are working, but they're not working great. Or you can just even figure out if paid ads will even work in your industry, because some industries just may struggle if they try to do this. I will answer all your questions for free. If you're new here, this is like episode 398. So you've missed out on a lot. There's a lot in our backlog. Go poke around in there. But this is the Six Figure Creative Podcast. I'm Brian Hood. This is a podcast for creative freelancers who want to earn more money without selling their souls. Take a lot of influence from my team, who has a wide background in a lot of different industries. And they've collectively spent like $15, $16 million on ads. I take a lot of influence from other industries like the SaaS industry, software as a service. So many brilliant minds in that world that we can bring directly into the freelance world. There's lots we can learn from the internet marketing world. There's a lot we can learn from the e-commerce world. I just try to learn from a lot of different sources, from people who are smarter than me, know a lot more than me, and then bring it to this industry, the creative freelance industry, and distill it down to something that's usable for you. So if that sounds at all interesting, you're in the right place. So I've got 7 things that I think are the biggest mistakes that I see when people try to run paid ads and they don't work. And this is in no particular order, but it's generally most common to least common. But the first reason why paid ads don't work for people is when there's a lack of credibility. If you think through what paid ads is you're putting your message out in front of a bunch of strangers. And so they're comparing your offer, your ad, you as a person and your services to all the other random strangers they see on the internet. And the trust barrier is already really high there. It's a lot to get over that trust barrier in order for people to actually trust what you're saying is true, to maybe respond to your ad in some sort of way where they'll click on it, maybe opt in, maybe book a call with you or fill out an inquiry form. But if you have zero credibility, this is an uphill battle. And your credibility is basically just earned through your reputation, how you treat your clients, your portfolio of work, how good your work is compared to other people, your accolades, if you have any awards or accolades or anything that recognizes you as somebody who is legitimate. The quality of your work is a huge part of this. And you cannot make paid ads work if you have zero reputation and your portfolio sucks or is just very limited. This is the thing I've seen drag people down again and again and again, where paid ads don't work for them because they have absolutely no reputation in the market, in their industry, no credibility whatsoever. Their portfolio sucks, or their portfolio is solid, but it's very limited. Your past work and your reputation has to support the promise you're making with your services. And I've seen people make massive transitions to a different offer, a different type of industry, or try to go to something that has more money because they were in a market with broke people or whatever sort of thing that they try to do. But they try to make this massive shift with zero reputation, zero supporting portfolio. While this can be great to do and very necessary for some people, like if you're in a market where it just doesn't work for you, you have to pivot somewhere else. But you're not going to get your first clients through paid ads if you make a massive pivot. You don't have the infrastructure, the portfolio, and the reputation to actually help you in that transition through paid ads. So our first reason that paid ads may not have worked for you if you tried them was that lack of credibility. And the easiest way of getting around that is actually working with people who already know, like, and trust you to start building that portfolio up. This is one of the reasons we tend to shy away from freelancers who are just in the very early stages of their careers, because there's so many things that can go wrong in those early stages that are outside of what we can actually help with. If you are the type of person who takes the shortcuts because you're lazy or you want the fast money and you're not taking care of the client for the long term, where you're okay taking reputation hits, that's going to show up. It's going to show up in a lot of different ways. And you're going to make our jobs as coaches who help you with client acquisition, you're going to make our jobs impossible because you have damaged your own reputation. If you have no portfolio, it is hard to get started. If you have no contacts whatsoever, that is arguably the hardest part to be, is the very beginning. But it's also the part where client acquisition isn't generally the issue, which is why, again, we work with freelancers who are already full-time, or at least they have a strong portfolio and they've been doing this maybe at an agency or something. But credibility is one of those things that's almost impossible to mimic and will drag you down through almost everything you try to do with client acquisition. Number two, reason why your paid ads didn't work is a lack of clarity. Let me talk about what doesn't work with paid ads, or really anything in life. But you've heard me say this quote before. You've heard this from other people out there. If you try to be everything for everyone, you're nothing for no one. What's going to happen is they're going to see the ad that's like, hey, are you a human being and you need any service on earth? Fill out the form and I'll do anything on earth for you. If you're a human, I'll do it. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. That'd be fun if that did work. I should try an ad like that just to see what sort of weirdos I get. We'll talk about what works, especially with paid ads. And then I'm going to get to you people that are like, well, I'm a generalist and I make a bunch of money. I'll slap you down in a second. What works is one clear, desirable thing to one clear avatar. It's like one offer, one avatar. That's basically it with paid ads. And the thing that trips people up here is two things. One, they don't want to get sucked into one little, they don't want to get pigeonholed. They want the freedom to do a bunch of different things. I'm such a passionate creative. I have to work on everything and I can't get pegged into one little tiny hole. The argument of generalist versus specialist, generalist is arguably can be more fun because you get to work on a bunch of different things. It's that Enneagram 7 in you where you're just like, I want to try a bunch of new experiences and I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. Unfortunately, that doesn't hold up in real life. Generally, when you see a generalist in the freelancing game, it's because they've built their careers and they've niche stacked after niche stack after niche stack, where they might have started in one teeny tiny little area for 5 years and they just crushed it. And then they built a reputation and a name and a brand. And then they started saying to those clients, what else do you need, Mr. and Mrs. Client? And they're like, well, we also need this other service. And you're like, cool, I can give you that. And they start doing this other service and they crush it and they build up their systems and their processes or hire a team or whatever to crush it in that second little service. And they're like, what else do you need, Mr. and Mrs. Client? They're like, I need this third service. And they're like, okay, I can do that. And what you see is 20 years into the future, you see those big names that are out there and you look at their websites or their Instagrams, or you just hear about them in interviews or whatever, the 1% freelancers out there. You realize that they're doing 10 different services. You're like, well, if they're doing 10 different services, I'm going to do 10 different services. Or they're working in 10 different niches. And if they're in 10 different niches or industries, I can be in 10 different industries or niches. That doesn't work in real life because you didn't earn that, they did. And when you're trying to get paid ads to work anyways, if the person has to employ brain power to understand what it is that you do, because you're so convoluted, you can't get a clear offer out there, then people are going to tune out. They don't want to use their brain power when they're just doom scrolling on Instagram or Facebook. So you understand why the one service is probably the best thing to try to advertise when it comes to paid ads. Trying to offer 15 different services isn't going to do it. You just need the person that's like, I raise my hand. I need that one thing. Yes, that's me. But you also need an avatar call out is what we call it. Avatar call out, or who are you talking to? Something that people self-identify with, because the words you use in your ads really matter. I'm going to give you an example. If I just call out an ad for a human being like I did a second ago, everyone on earth is a human being. If they're swiping on Instagram, they're a human being. But no one walks around amongst everyone else in the world and says, I am a human being and nothing more. It's a very weak call out. Another one might be woman. Now you've narrowed it down 50-50. I am a woman or I'm a man by gender. It's a little better, but not great. Narrow it down a little bit more. Maybe female business owners. It's a little more narrow. And you start to see some niche communities of female business owners that are out there, but it's still not the most powerful call out. Women might identify as a female business owner, or they might not. If you narrow down further, it might be a female solopreneur, which probably not a great call out either, but it gets a little more narrow because business owner could be a team of 500 to 5,000. It could be a team of 50, or it could be a team of one, right? A solopreneur is just hey, I'm a solo independent business owner. I've got maybe a creative business, or I have a brick and mortar business, or I have a flower shop, or I have really anything that's a solo business owner. As we get narrower and narrower, now we have a female freelancer. And I'm sticking with the female here just because you'll see in a second. If you're wondering why does Brian keep saying females in here? I'll get to that in a second. To get more narrow from freelancer, you could go even down to creative freelancers, because all freelancing, it's actually a pretty broad market. Any sort of freelance work, I think even technically an Uber driver is a freelancer or a contractor. Gets nuanced. But now we get down to even more specific, maybe brand designers. That's a call out that's actually, we use it in our ads, brand designers. You could even throw the gender in there again if you wanted to, but I'll just stick with the brand designers for now. That's a call out that actually people identify. Are you a brand designer? Yes, I am a brand designer. Is anyone in the room a brand designer? Yes, I'm a brand designer. Someone would eagerly raise their hand and say, yes, that's me. We're looking for a brand designer versus we're looking for a human or we're looking for a business owner. It's not that powerful. I guess I'm a business owner, but I am a brand designer, right? How powerful is that call out to them? Brand designer, yes. What if you're like, I'm looking for a brand designer in the hospitality industry? Oh, wow. I definitely do that. That's even more rare. You see, the more rare it is, the more powerful the call out is. And it gets all the way down to like, hey, is your name Yannick DaCosta? That's one of our clients. I hope she doesn't get mad at me for calling her out like this. But she is a human being. She is a woman. She's a female business owner. She is a solopreneur. She's a freelancer. She's a creative freelancer. She's a brand designer in the hospitality industry. All those things she would identify with. But if in an ad, I was like, is your name Yannick DaCosta? She'd be like, that's really creepy. But you start to see that these are words that they identify with. Does this person self-identify with the words you call out with it? The broader it is, the less powerful it is, the more specific it is, the more powerful it is. And there's obviously going to be a drop-off point where I don't know of any other Yannick DaCostas out in the world. If I Google her right now, she owns every one of the top results on Google. So that's a pretty unique name. But that lack of clarity is what's killing businesses. And just that one example, I want you to visualize whether I say, are you a human being who wants to make more money? Somebody's going to respond to that, but not the type of people I want to work with. Versus, are you a brand designer who needs more clients? Are you a woman named Yannick DaCosta who wants help with client acquisition? Or I'm done calling her name out specifically. All right, so that's the second reason your ads didn't work if you tried them and they failed. First was lack of credibility. Second was lack of clarity. The third is like a lack of interest in learning the real skills behind this. And the example I like to use is when you use a boosted post. This is like the lazy path versus learning a skill that can keep you fed for life. This is what I call the donate to Zuckerberg button. What happens is Instagram, I think is pretty bad at this. You make a post on Instagram, it gets a certain amount of reach, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Instagram will say, hey, you can get X more reach if you just put $10 behind it. Boost the post. And you're like, yeah, I'll boost the post every now and again. I put $10, $20 behind it. I get some impressions, but I don't really know if it's working or not. That's the attitude that I see when most people said they tried paid ads, is like they just boosted posts with no way of measuring, no understanding, no strategy behind it. And you took the lazy path. These skills can, honestly, they can feed you for life, whether it's in your own freelance business or you take those skills and use them for another business or use it in a future business you're going to launch in the future. The skill of paid ads I have used in multiple industries and multiple businesses, and they've always earned more money than I've spent on it. In general, I did the math recently. The last time I checked, in general, every time I put $1 in, I get like $6 or $7 out. And honestly, I can do better than that. And this also depends on the season. It depends on the business, depends on the funnel as well. And every year we're getting more and more efficient with return on ad spend for what we do. Because again, I am very interested in learning the actual skills behind making this work. And if you have that genuine interest, you can start to figure out the game that is being played here. And so if you learn how to actually set up things properly, instead of using boosted posts, you're using the ads manager, which is a more complex platform, you can start to make this happen. That said, I've also seen people who do have the interest in it, but they still haven't actually put in the work. They want to use the ads manager. They want to take this seriously and run ads the right way, but they, for whatever reason, don't actually learn how to do it correctly. So what we'll see is like somebody will run ads in the ads manager versus a boosted post. I'll say, hey, 2 thumbs up, good job for that. But they set it up wrong. The ads platform, especially meta ads, which is predominantly where our ad spend goes, it's a very technical platform. It's easily messed up if you don't know what you're doing or if you don't have help from someone that knows what they do. But the issues that I see are you've set things up, but you have no pixel or data set is what they call it now, but no pixel and no conversion data. That means you're not telling Meta what's good or what's bad. Generally, if you set up the pixel correctly, or you're using what's called API integration or CAPI, I'm getting way into nerdy stuff here. You can basically say, when this event happens, when someone sees my ad, they click the ad, they sign up for the thing, that's a good sign. That's what I want. Send me more people like that. Or they saw the ad, they signed up for it, they filled out my inquiry form, and they booked a call. Give me more of those people. I want the people that booked a call. And so every time that happens, Meta's getting a nice reinforcement that this thing is happening. So they're going to say, oh, okay, we got 4 or 5 book calls from this ad right here. First, we're going to spend more money behind that ad than the other ads. And we're going to show it to more people like those 4 that booked a call. And now 5, and now 6, and now 7, and 10, and 15, and 30, and 100. The more conversions you get on that event, the better optimized Meta is going to be to sending more people like that to you. But what happens is people don't do the correct event. They don't do a book call. They don't even do a lead. They'll do some stupid conversion goal like video views. Show me more people that watch my video. Or engagement, a positive thing, a good thing to happen is someone engaged with my ad. They liked it, they hearted it, they thumbs upped it. Every time that happens, that's telling Meta, oh, I want more of that. Show it to more people who like the ad. The problem is that's not a very good conversion goal. You want people who are actually going to get further down the funnel. And if you look from a holistic view of like, what's an early sign of success to a late sign of success? How does it work? Thing number 1 is somebody will watch your video. Cool. That's good. That's a good thing to happen. But if they watch the video and don't actually click on it or do anything else, then they're going to drop off. They might watch the video and like it. Again, if they just leave from there, it's not a thing that we want. If they don't click the ad, then that's not a good thing. Well, let's say they click the ad next and we're optimizing for clicks. Then you're going to get a whole bunch of people to your landing page, but they don't actually convert. Not a good thing either. So when they click, they can land on the landing page and they're going to put their email address in to opt in. That's the next kind of funnel. The next thing we can optimize for. We can optimize for leads there. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it's enough. Sometimes it's not. What's the next thing after that? They're going to fill out an inquiry form. They're going to book a call with you. And they're going to hopefully purchase from you. The further down the funnel we get, the better optimization we can do. But the caveat is we need enough conversion events to happen. Generally, you're not getting a ton of book calls, so we can't necessarily optimize for that at first. So we do just generally leads. You'll get a lot of leads early on, and that'll be early signs of success. And then we can start to get more inquiries, and we can start to optimize for inquiries and further down the funnel until ultimately one day you're optimizing for purchases. Most freelancers will never optimize for purchases. Most freelancers will likely not even optimize for book calls, although some can. A lot of freelancers can optimize for inquiries submitted because you'll have enough volume, enough numbers for that. And a lot, especially at the start, will just optimize for leads. But if you don't understand this and you don't know how to troubleshoot this and you don't know what the numbers are good versus bad, you're going to end up doing a bunch of dumb stuff. And if you don't know how to learn this stuff, you've got to find someone who can teach you this. But that interest in learning the actual skills is the thing I've seen people just ruin them again and again and again. They spend hundreds or thousands of dollars behind paid ads, and yet they have nothing to show for it because they threw money at a problem using a tool that they had no idea how to utilize. And I imagine it's it's something similar to like, hey, I want to build a house, but I've got this stupid house in the way that I need to tear down to build a new house. So I'm going to rent a giant excavator to demolish the house. Although I have no idea how to use it, I'm just going to figure it out. And I can imagine the detriment that would ensue from there. That's number 3. So again, we've got lack of credibility is number 1. Lack of clarity is number 2. Lack of interest in learning the actual skills behind the ads that you want to run. Number 4 is you have no clear testing process. The testing process is basically like, here's what we do every single time. We do this many ads. We run it for this many days or spend this much money on it. Here's the numbers we're looking at. And if we don't hit these numbers, we're going to try it one more time. That's the testing method in a nutshell. But there's just no clear testing process whatsoever. Freelancers generally will just throw up an ad or 2 maybe, or 3 if they're smarter, and then they don't work. And then you're like, well, I tried paid ads, it didn't work. And they don't know whether to use images or reels or long form video, what placements to use. They don't know if they should use carousels. And usually because you have no idea what numbers you're even looking for, which there'll be more on that in a minute, you have no idea what numbers you're looking for. I'm just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And usually nothing sticks. So the easiest method that I see for running paid ads and testing, a good testing process, is we test in batches of 3. The way we do it is we create 3 ads, all video, 30, 60 seconds. We run the test of 3 ads. We look at the numbers. And based on those numbers, we figure out what the problem is. We say, oh, this is the issue right here. We see this one thing. An example might be, we call it a hook percentage. What percentage of your people that viewed 3 seconds of your video actually made it to the 15-second portion? What percentage of it? If we see below like 25, 30%, we say that your hook is weak. And we just need to go back and update the hook. The rest of the video can stay the same. Let's just change the first 15 seconds of the ad. We find the problem. We come up with a hypothesis. Let's try these 3 hooks that I think will be stronger based on what we're seeing before. You create another batch of 3 to test, and it might just be re-recording the first 15 seconds and then editing it on to the rest of the ads you already had. And then we're going to run the test, look at the numbers, find the problems, come up with a hypothesis, create another 3 to test until we, what I call, move the dollar down the funnel. It just means we're putting a dollar in, and that dollar is going to get stuck somewhere. It's going to fall out of the funnel somewhere in there. And it's going to be, maybe the hook's bad, maybe the ad is fine, but they're getting the landing page and your landing page sucks, or your inquiry form has too many questions on it, so they fall off there. Basically, we're going to keep going down the funnel until we figure it out. We're going to tidy it up until the dollar moves down the funnel to the very end and you get something back. You may put $2 in and get $1 back, meaning you put like $200 in and you get $100 back, something like that. And eventually you're going to get $1 in, $1 back, then $1 in, $3 back, $1 in, $5 back, $1 in, $10 back, $20 back, $30 back. Some of our clients have more than $30 return on ad spend, but it comes through this exact testing method that I'm talking about. This is essentially the scientific method. This is the thing that's been around for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years. There was even, I looked it up and there was like 1100 BC was the number I saw, where there was like Egyptian writing. They found some hieroglyphs or something that was like basically the scientific method, early versions of that. So this is a tried and true method that has worked for a very long time. We're just using it in the ads space. Otherwise, if you're not using this, if you're not using some sort of testing process, you're just burning money. Paid ads is not a binary game. It's not like a 1 or 0. It worked or it didn't work. People say like it didn't work, and I'm like, what didn't work? And they're just like, it didn't work. I'm like, what didn't work? Because to make paid ads work, it's generally just looking at what part didn't work and fixing that one thing. It's a spectrum. There's like a lot of little things to figure out. But once you tidy up each one of the little issues at a time, you're turning a bunch of different zeros into ones until you get a full thing that actually works. And then it's not just Does it work? How well can it work? Because for us, over time, we're making every single part of our funnel more and more efficient, which is important because every year ads tend to get more expensive. And so if you're not beating what the market is doing, you're actually hurting yourself and you can't run paid ads forever. Fortunately, the bar is relatively low. Most people don't have a great testing process. Most people don't know what they're doing, especially in the markets that a lot of our clients play in. Some are way more competitive, but generally speaking, people don't know what they're doing. So if you have some sort of framework that you're following to actually test things, you're gonna be ahead of 95% of people out there. So that's number 4 is no clear testing process. Number 5, the number 5 reason your ads didn't work if you tried them before or won't work if you try them in the future is unrealistic budget expectations. Here's what I mean. People trying to land like a $10,000 client, I see regularly give up after like $100 in ad spend. They spend $100 and they're like, this didn't work for me. What's going on? $100 is like enough for a solid, like one solid test of ads. Like you're talking about launching 3 ads. If you have a $10,000 client, you'll probably want to spend anywhere from $60 to $70 to $100 on that set of 3 ads before you can say whether or not that's a good test or not. So $100 is enough for one test, not to see if the overall strategy will work for you, not to see if the industry will work for you. It's a test. Here's our progress path. Assuming a client's worth like $3,000 to $10,000, here's generally what we want to see at each kind of tier in spending. And this would be a good one for you when you're thinking through, like if you're trying to do ads on your own, here's what I should be seeing back on my ad spend. After $100 spent, your first $100 spent, we generally want to see 3 to 15 leads. And this depends on the industry. Some industries, leads are way cheaper. So you'll see like 20, 25 leads on their first $100. And some you'll see like 1. It really depends on the industry. But I want to see generally for like a $3,000 to a $10,000 client, if that's your pricing, 3 to 15 leads. We want to see 1 to 5 inquiries and maybe 1 to 2 book calls. You'll likely have 0 book calls in your first $100 in ad spend, but we might get 1 to 5 inquiries. That's a really good positive sign after your first 100 in ad spend. After your first 500 in ad spend, leads don't matter at this point. I don't care how many leads you got at that point. If we've gotten to $500 and the other signs look okay, the number of leads is largely irrelevant. What I care about at this point, the number I really look at is inquiries. We want to have 5 to 25 inquiries. I know that's a wide margin, but this is very industry dependent and it depends on what the rest of your metrics look at. At this point, inquiries, again, are kind of the leading indicator. The things I look for from here is book calls. I want to see 2 to 8 booked calls on your first $500 in ad spend and 1 to 4 qualified leads. Meaning you got 2 to 8 book calls. About 50% of those will be like ideal clients. It can be a little higher, a little lower than that, but that's generally what I want to see. It's a really good sign if you have that at $500 in ad spend. Some clients, by the way, have spent $500 and landed $8,000, $12,000 worth of clients. They've turned it into like many multiples of what they did. I wouldn't even call them outliers. It happens commonly enough to $500 where I'd say like it can happen, but I don't want to set the expectation there. So when I'm trying to set mental expectations for people, $500 in ad spend, you've gotten like 1 to 4 qualified leads who have booked a call with you and you're excited to talk to those. Remember, this is for like a $3,000 to $10,000 client. So if your ads are bringing in qualified leads, they're doing their job. It's your turn to now just actually close those leads. At $1,000, this is where certain stats just don't matter. Like I don't really care number of leads, number of inquiries, even book calls at $1,000. Only thing I care about at this point is how many offers made and clients closed. So at $1,000 spent, if you have anywhere from like 2 to 5 offers made, meaning they came through your funnel, they filled out your inquiry form, they booked a call, you looked over it, this is wonderful, you actually had the call, everything made sense, you can help them, they can help you, and you're like, cool, I think this is a great fit. Here's my pricing. What do you think? Check yes or no. You might remember that song. Think this is how love goes. Check yes or no. Yeah, you remember that song. Anyways, that's kind of how it works on the call. Check yes or no. If you've said check yes or no to 2 to 5 people and your clients are worth between $3,000 and $10,000, and ideally, at least some leads who are seriously considering it, they didn't just outright reject you. Ideally, you've maybe even closed a client at this point. At this point, things are working well. Because remember, if even it's only a $3,000 client and your first $1,000 of ad spend, and you have 2 to 5 serious conversations with offers made and people are strongly considering you, and you even closed one of them for even $3,000, that's a 3 to 1 return on ad spend. It's not great for a service-based business, but it's a wonderful start. And if you can shoot for that, it's only up from there. You can make the things more efficient. You can get better at sales. Let's just say you made 5 offers. If you can get your close rate to 40%, that's 2 closes. At $3,000, that's $6,000. At $10,000, that's $20,000. But that's kind of a good roadmap to shoot for when it comes to ad spend expectations. Yes, it can take longer than that. Yes, it can go way shorter than that too. But if you at least have that sort of like benchmark to look at as you're going through this, it'll allow you to better spend money without having a return yet. Because you think about it, it's spending $1,000 in the void with no real like feedback or knowing. Again, this is assuming you're doing it on your own without having any understanding of what's working or not. That's scary. So if you have, again, these sort of progress points, we're like, okay, Brian said it, $500, I should have these numbers. I should have 5 to 25 inquiries. I'm within that. That's okay. 2 to 8 book calls. Okay, I got that. 1 to 4 qualified leads. Okay, I got 2 qualified leads. Everything's looking good. I haven't made a buck back yet, but Brian says this is okay. That's a better place to be than somebody who's like, man, I spent $500 and it didn't work. Well, it did work. You're moving the dollar down the funnel. It did work. You just didn't understand that it was working. It's like you're in a gold mine blindly just chipping away at the rocks, not knowing what you're even looking at. And you just passed by a wonderful gold vein that you just ignored because you didn't know what the hell you were doing. You gave up. That leads us to number 6. Reason why your paid ads didn't work when you tried them, or won't work if you do try them, is lead quality issues. The reason I said like the leads or inquiries don't really matter past a certain point in your ad spend is because the only thing that really matters is qualified leads. Qualified leads matter most. And a qualified lead, depending on what metric you look at or what platform you look at, who you're learning from. The easiest one to look at is what I learned from, I think Alex Ramosi, and he learned it from like IBM or some shit. BANT, B-A-N-T. The lead has the budget to make the purchase. They have the authority to make the decision. They have the need for your services, and they have the timeline that makes sense for the project. If you look at the opposite of that, a really unqualified lead is like, they don't have a budget. It's like the minority stakeholder of the business that you're trying to work with, so they don't have any decision power. They kind of need your service, but not really. They're like, we could use it or not. And then the timeline is like, we could maybe use your service like 8 months from now or a year from now. That's a great example of an unqualified lead. And again, qualified or unqualified, we try to make it very binary, but it is kind of a spectrum as well, because like they have the budget, they have the authority, they have the need, but the timeline is like 6 months later. That's still a qualified lead. And you might be able to get a deposit or something to kind of like book them in advance, but that's still a great lead. And I wouldn't discount that just because it's like the timeline 6 months from now, just close them 6 months from now, right? Or budget. People like are down on budget all the time, like especially in the industry I come from, which is like the music industry. A lot of music producers working with broke bands, and they're like, they're broke. They don't have the budget, so they're not qualified. Well, I'm like, they don't have the budget right now. But if you've set like a vision for them that they really want this thing, and they have the authority to make the decision, they have the need of your services, like they're talented, and they have the timeline where they want to work with you as soon as possible. The budget's the thing that can be solved. It's another one of those, like it might be 1 or 2 months. You need to save some extra money on the side. You need to work with them on how to actually save. You can put together a savings plan for them where they basically do layaway with you, where they pay you in chunks until it's all paid off and they come to the studio for you. There's ways around this. So just because one of these things is missing doesn't mean it's an unqualified lead. It just means that you don't know how to actually close those people. And we'll talk more about that in a second, because I kind of got ahead of myself here. It's more of a sales problem, which we'll talk about. But once you know what a qualified lead is, you've determined what those factors are. What we see time and time again with the clients that we work with is they still make this mistake. They know what a qualified lead is, but they start optimizing for what is like the cheapest leads. So we had a client who was getting $7 book calls. That means for every $100 spent, he was getting 14 booked calls on his calendar. But the problem was he had a high no-show rate, meaning like the percentage of people who actually showed up for those discovery calls was very low. And he had a low conversion rate on those calls. So when they did show, he wasn't converting those either. And the reason why he was getting so many of those is because his messaging was targeting low quality leads. So this client who's in like the rap hip hop industry, again, work with a lot of music producers out there. And that's already inherently tough industry because there's a lot of people that are like on the beginner side, they have a lot of aspirations, but they have no execution power to back it. They want something, but they're not willing to put in the work, which again, we see this a lot in the freelance world too. But the issue with his ads was he was creating ads that were appealing to goals and motivations that only beginners really have. And I forget the exact hooks, but maybe something to the effect of like, if you're a rap and hip hop artist and you want label quality music or something like that, here's what I can do to help. Again, that's very broad strokes, probably something like that. And like, if you're a very beginner, of course you want label quality work. You don't want to put the budget behind it. You don't want to have to put the work into it to do those things, but you want it. So what we did instead was just create two things. One was a better inquiry form so we could actually better weed out those like tire kickers, the people who are not serious. So putting some questions in there that would basically like call it a honeypot. It's like a question that only a beginner would answer this way, and then questions that only an advanced person would answer this way. So a better inquiry form to weed out low quality leads, and then also better messaging. But before we get into the messaging side, I want to talk about lead filtering, because sometimes if you have enough leads coming in the door, you don't even have to change your messaging. You can just have whatever the ad is. It was bringing in $7 book calls, when sometimes we can get quality from the quantity. So in these numbers, like when a client's worth like $4,000 or $5,000 and you're getting book calls for $7, you can reject a lot of leads. Or better yet, you can even filter those out so they never even access your calendar. So like things you can do, like put logic into your form. So if they answer this question this way, they just get sent to a thank you page. Thanks for filling out the form. I'll reach out with next steps, versus going to your booked calendar. You can protect your calendar that way through just basic logic and forms. And what can happen is instead of $7 book calls, we're getting $70 book calls. That means only 1 out of 10 leads are getting through to your calendar. And if that's the case, a $70 book call from somebody who qualified is still wonderful. $70 book call. Even if you rejected, you kicked off half of those on your calendar, that's still $140 per qualified lead. If you have a 70% show rate, that means it's $200 to get somebody to show up on a call. And if you can close even 30% of those, that's $666, can't make that up, $666 to close a client. And again, if that client's worth $5,000, that's a 7.5 return on ad spend. That means you put $1 in and got $7.50 back. That's a funnel that actually works. But we can do better than that, because not only can you filter like that, you can also create messaging on the front end that targets more serious musicians or whatever your client niche is. I'm just using musicians in this example because $7 book calls is insane. And I've only ever seen this in the music world. In the business world, it's going to be quite a bit more. So if your clients are businesses, please don't expect to get $7 book calls. But what we did was just create messaging that targets the more serious musicians. So ad hooks that are targeting problems or targeting goals that only serious musicians would have. And again, I don't have the specific examples here, but I just kind of brainstormed a couple before this episode. These are not great, but you kind of get the gist of it. So like, think about what kind of problem would only be experienced by somebody who's successful. Well, your ad hook might be something like, once you cross 100,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, your mix has to sound like 1 million a month or you'll never get there. It's a much higher bar. And while that still will bring in like bottom of the barrel leads, most likely because those people aspire to get to 1 million a month or 100,000 monthly listeners, it's also going to appeal to those people who got to that higher level. Yeah, I'm at 100,000 a month. I need to get to 1 million. That's their next goal. Because usually it's in like tens like that. It might go from 10,000 to 100,000 to 1 million is like the appeal that they're going for. But once you get the lead quality issues sorted out, you've essentially made the paid ads game work. The whole point of paid ads is to turn strangers into conversations. People that are on your sales calendar, you're having conversations with them, you're making an offer to them because you can help them and they need your help. And if that happens, paid ads work for you. But there's a seventh issue here, the seventh reason why paid ads didn't work for you when you tried them, that is worth talking about, and that is sales problems. Selling to strangers is like a completely different game. If you're selling with people who already know, like, and trust you, that is like so easy. It's what they call in the sales world, it's like lay down leads. It's like you don't have to fight for it. You don't have to struggle with it. They just lay down, you take their money, and that's it. It's the easiest sell in the world. And that's what most freelancers are used to. And so when you see like freelancers bragging like, oh, I close like 60, 70, 80, 90% of people who inquire for my services to me. I close like 80%. I saw somebody bragging about a 90% close rate. Not only are you way undercharging if that's the case, but generally what I see is maybe you're closing 80, 90%, but your counter's like a third of the way full. So you still have a bunch of open counter space. And so if that's you, you can't just do lay down leads for the rest of your life. You have to learn how to turn strangers into clients if you ever want to break out of that referral dependency. And the referral dependency is what keeps people in that feast or famine cycle, because you don't control when someone's referred to you. You can control how much you're spending on ads, how many batches of tests you're running, what sort of lead qualities you're getting, how we can optimize the lead quality. But like I said, once ads are bringing in qualified leads to you, your lack of closed clients is not an ads issue. It is 100% a sales issue because the ads are doing their job. And this is what we do with clients. We'll review their sales calls. And we've seen this again and again. One of our clients was on our ROI guarantee. So one of the guarantees we have in our coaching program is if you don't make at least $10,000 worth of new clients from what we do with you, then we'll keep coaching you for free until you hit that number, until you hit $10,000 in new clients. One of our clients that we had on that ROI guarantee, I won't name the name. He has given us permission to use his name, but not probably related to this, so I won't use his name. He was on the ROI guarantee because he wasn't getting clients, and all the numbers looked great. Everything looked great. He just wasn't getting clients. We were trying to figure this out. This is one of our earlier clients, so we hadn't really figured out the sales problem side of things yet until we started reviewing his calls. And we realized when we reviewed one of his call replays, we quickly realized he was sabotaging his own sales. What he was doing was an okay discovery process. So he's like uncovering their needs and basically doing like a diagnosis. But on the prescription side of things, basically prescribing how we could help, he was shooting himself in the foot. It was horrible. So what he would do is he'd get to the part where it's like offering his services. And instead of saying, okay, you have all these problems or you have all these goals that you want, all these things, I've diagnosed this. Does that sound right? Yes, it does. Cool. Here's how I can help. Instead of saying, here's what I think makes the most sense for you based on all that, we'll do X, Y, and Z. And the result will be A, B, and C. Does that sound like something you're interested in? Yes, it is. Okay, here's the price. Boom. Again, very abridged sales process here, but you get the gist. That's what it should be. Diagnose, you figure out what the pain is or the goals are. You shape your offer to match their needs. And then just see, before price is mentioned, just see if it even fits what they're looking for. Instead of that, what he would do is like, here's all the things. Am I understanding your situation correctly? Cool. We've diagnosed your problem. So here's what we can do, Mr. and Mrs. Client. I can give you package A, and it'll include all these things, and it'll be this exact price. Or we can do package B, and it'll include all these things plus these 3 more things, and it'll be this price that's like 50% more. Or we're going to do package 3, and it's like all these things plus 6 more things, and it'll be twice as much. Which one of those 3 packages do you want? And they'll say, whoo, I don't know. Need to think about it. Can you send this to me? And they'll say, sure. And then they would get off the call. And that would be their sales process. As soon as we realized that he was doing that, we just course corrected him on his sales process. on fixing those sorts of things. And magically, he closed like $30,000, $40,000 worth of projects, quit his day job, rode off into the sunset. So sales problems can hold you back from paid ads working or not working, but it's going to be different for everybody. Like I said earlier at the beginning of this episode, I'm doing a free paid ads Q&A on January 22nd at 1 p.m. That should be, this episode's coming out when I think it is, should just be in a couple days. You can go to sixfigurecreative.com/ads. That's ADS. That should take you to the registration page for this. It'll be at 1 p.m. It'll be live only, not going to do replays for this. So if you want your questions answered on, do paid ads work for me? How do I know if I'm ready for paid ads? Or here's what I tried, it didn't work. What do you think, Brian? Or will this even work in my niche? Or just anything else, anything that came up while you're listening to this episode or watching this episode that you're like, I would love to pick your brain on this. Just register for that and I'll answer whatever questions you have for me. It's not going to be, shouldn't be a huge group of people. And if it is, if I see a lot of people registering, what I'll do is I'll reach out to people who register and ask to submit questions ahead of time. And then that way I can go through the questions and organize them ahead of time and kind of group them together for the most popular ones. But I'll stick around as long as needed to answer any questions that you have. Again, that's January 22nd at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Just go to sixfigurecreative.com/ads to register for that. And we can chat things over for you. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for listening to the Six Figure Creative Podcast. And I'll see you hopefully this Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time if you can register for that. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Peace.